Hi everyone, welcome to School of Scarlett. I am so happy to have you here today. Today we're going to be talking about happiness, specifically how to be happy. So I can remember as a young teenage girl being one of the first times I've ever been on the internet. And I don't know if y'all remember back then, there used to be Google and there used to be Ask Jeeves. There used to be these weird search engines. Do you remember? I don't know. There was quite a few other ones out there. So anyhow, I remember that search bar where you could just type in what it was that you wanted to know, and the World Wide Web would answer to you something, whether it was in an article, a video, something, but you would get something back. So that's when everything began to change in the world. We stopped going to our mom and dad. We stopped going to our grandparents, and that was now the change of everything. We now were seeking technology and things for our answers. Now, the number one burning question that I had at the time that I was a young teenager was how to be happy. And I can remember vividly typing that in, how to be happy. And I received all kinds of articles which I read because this was something I really wanted to know. It seemed that everyone around me was happy. It seemed that everyone around me was having a good time in life, was vibrant, was outgoing, was having a great time in this experience of life. But I knew and felt deep down inside that I was not. So I wanted to know the secret to happiness. I wanted to know how to be happy and why other people appeared so happy, yet I was not having that experience for myself. So I often think to myself, have y'all ever had that question? Did y'all ever search that on Google or any of these search engines that you have encountered? And I want to think that you have. I want to think that this is a very natural human question, how to be happy. So I want to make a video completely around this for whoever has that search coming up for them. Because now we have YouTube, and YouTube is full of wisdom, and it's also full of just opinions and lots of different things. But regardless of what you feel about YouTube, it is a place that a lot of young people and old people and everybody in between goes to seek answers, goes to seek how-tos, goes to seek some guidance. And so I want to have a video out here on YouTube about how to be happy. Because for my younger self, I'm making this video here today. So to make this video, I had to come to my set, which is at a different location. This is the set that I have. And I was driving here and I was experiencing so much happiness as I was driving here. I got to see the beautiful lake where this house is at and how the water had risen. As I arrived, it was daytime, but I got greeted by an owl hooting, which when I used to live here at night, the owls would hoot, or maybe it was just one owl, but it would hoot at night. And when I was having trouble sleeping, this is what I would listen to, is the hoot of the owl. And so as I arrived, I was greeted by the owl. Then I was greeted by my neighbor's son, a young little boy who I had seen since he was a very small baby. When I moved to this home, he was a tiny little infant. And now he is a big grown boy. And so he greeted me as I came in and let me know what he was up to and, just different things. And my happiness was there in seeing him and how he had transformed since the last time I saw him. What a nice young man he was. Being part of his experience, it just feels so nice to be back in connection with him. Then I get to meet with my neighbor, one of the most positive, beautiful women on this earth. She has an imagination and a heart that you wouldn't believe. This woman can see things that aren't there, and she has an imagination, and believe it or not, she's a great manifester. She's telling me all about very human things. Going to the gym, people around town, all of this happiness was arising with me, listening to these things, these very mundane things, but I wasn't doing these things. I was listening to her and I was being kind of part of this. But I was basking in the happiness that it is to be part of those things. And although I'm no longer in some of those stages of life, I'm no longer, shuttling kids around or, maybe going to the gym all the time or whatever, I can relate. And those times are beautiful and they're happy. And she sees them as happy because she has that perspective to see them that way. But regardless if you have that perspective or not, just realize that there's happiness in each moment. Even in those moments that I felt that I wasn't so happy, now looking back, you have a different perspective of it because you have removed those very fleeting emotions and thought forms that were coming in at that time. And now you have literally just what happened. And what happened, you see, is not anything wrong with it. It's actually perfect, and I would consider it heaven on earth. So when we remove the emotions, the thought streams that just naturally just automatically happen, it's not something that we are choosing for ourselves necessarily. When we remove these things, the perspectives, the mindsets, the thought forms that just stream in, the automatic thoughts and emotions, when we remove all of this and we just have a bare, raw experience with life as it is, it's perfect. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it, which is why you can look back on a lot of memories. And even though at those times, maybe those were hard times for you, you can now look at them as good times, or you can now even miss those times. Now, there was times that I was really, really suffering, but I miss those times too. And it's not necessarily a missing of it, of wanting to necessarily relive that, but it's the sensation of those times, of those experiences, those lived experiences. They had meaning. They had a fluctuation, a polarity of emotions, a growth within them, an intelligence that is very authentic, very organic, very raw to who we truly are authentically. It's basically the birthing of your heart's desires. And they occur sometimes not in the most pleasant ways. So we don't see them as happy. And so we're always seeking happiness somewhere outside of ourselves, not realizing that happiness is packed in to each experience. And even though it may not feel happy in the moment, happiness is there. Whether or not you accept it and embrace it in that moment as it is, or you allow the time to pass and then you see it hindsight. So, but happiness is always there. You just aren't seeing it. You're separating yourself. You're seeing things through a veil that isn't really true. It's truly an illusion. So when we remove the veil, we can truly see things clearly without the veil as they are, and they truly are perfect. So happiness is always there. That's the first thing to keep in mind. Now, I had recently just started my Feminine Remembering course, and we just completed our first live session. And if you are interested in joining that course or any of my courses, please check out my description. For any of my videos, I have everything listed in the description of how to connect with me further. But in this course, as we were completing our first session, at the very last part of it, we were kind of watching movies and things in order to remember the feminine. So one of the movies that we're using to remember the feminine is one of my favorite movies, Under the Tuscan Sun. And I played a little clip at the very end of Catherine and Francis. And Catherine is getting frustrated with Francis and telling her, "You're just so boring. You're just as boring as a black hole." And just going after her. And, in all her frustration, she leaves her with a small little tip. And she tells her, when I was a little girl, I used to spend all day looking for ladybugs, looking and looking for ladybugs everywhere. And I would get so tired that I would eventually fall asleep from being so tired for looking for these ladybugs. And when I would awaken, I would be covered in ladybugs. So I wanted to make sure that I included that clip in that portion of that course, because I think it's important to know that we just need to get on with our lives. Just do the things that we do. And in each moment and in each thing that we do, each experience, happiness is already there. We don't have to search for it. We don't have to try to create it. We don't have to do anything other than just do what we're doing with a good heart. And as we do that, happiness is there. It meets us there. And in those times where we are just so hung up and just, we're going to make this happiness happen, or we're going to find that ladybug no matter what, we have sometimes no control of that. And we really have to surrender, because the heart has a very interesting component to it. You do have to have a level of surrendering to the unknown, because the unknown is all there is. So one of the main things that a lot of people struggle with is surrendering to the unknown. They want to know the outcomes of every experience. So when you choose to do any experience, it seems that you already either have that expectation, or you've thought through the outcome, which is essentially an expectation of what should happen. And I'm going to tell you, I was very guilty of that throughout my life. And I don't know if you have been this way as well. If you really examine things, which I have, I pretty much always had an expectation for how things would go. And this can be helpful, but it could also lead to a lot of unhappiness, which is why we just have to allow and accept and surrender to what is. Because if we're hung up on our expectations, then we're going to be deeply unhappy. Because what we expect to happen, what we imagine to happen, that might be along the lines, but life is ever changing, is very dynamic, is very multifaceted, and can show you what you're imagining, can bring forth whatever you're manifesting, but it's going to bring it forth in whichever way it wants to. So you may think that it is showing up in a way that's unpleasant, it's bad, it's not making you happy. But you see, you have to allow, surrender to it, and accept it. And in doing so, it's transformed and transmuted for good. So it doesn't matter even if it was created for bad. Like, let's say that you are in a situation and it's feeling like, oh, someone has trapped you, or someone has manipulated you, or done something to you that is clearly making you unhappy, or is clearly bad in your preferences, right? It's on the bad spectrum. Well, that's just happening. Okay, it's just happening. It's neutral. It's neither good or bad in terms of the universe, in terms of energy. You're perceiving it as bad, but whoever's manipulating you, whatever's happening on the other side, is probably perceiving it as good, because it has an agenda. So it's neither good or bad. Nothing ever is. But where is the awareness? The awareness is with you. And you can only be aware of your own awareness. You're not aware of anybody else's awareness. So through that focus, you can transmute absolutely anything, even if it was intended for evil or bad, or to make you unhappy. You can transmute that into good. And how do you do that? By staying in your lane, doing what you need to do, and not being bothered by anything. Don't let anything shake you. It is the way you say it is, and that is it. There is nothing here on this earth that can truly cause you any harm, because you see, what you truly are cannot be harmed, cannot be tainted, cannot be messed with. And when you have this realization, you become very powerful, very, very powerful. And see, you always have been. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to basically let you know you are a very powerful being. And there's been many forces happening within the programming and your so-called life and timeline that you're living here that have been placed to create a sort of programming that makes it seem as if you're unhappy. And you're unhappy due to some sort of worthiness, unworthiness, should we say, or some sort of issue with you. And you see, there has not been an issue with you. You are not unworthy. You are not poor. You are not useless. You are not dumb. You are not all of these things that a lot of people and different systems have made you believe. Now, this programming started a long time ago when you were in this illusion, a baby, an infant, then a child or toddler or whatever, as you're growing up. If we even just take a look at media has its own ways of programming us, of, even from a very young age, when we began to watch TV and be on the internet and seeing all these images, the comparisons, the different types of TV shows that emphasize different things as being more preferable and putting things down, the bullying, the cyber stuff. So many different things have created an atmosphere that really creates doubt in a person, really makes them feel unworthy and begin to believe it to be true. But you see, those things are not true. And I want you to recognize that here and now today. Step into your power and reclaim your power. It's all yours. And so there is really no happiness outside of yourself, outside of any experience. It's all contained within that package. It's not here, it's not there. This person over here can't teach you how to obtain it. That person over there doesn't have it. If you marry this person, you won't get it. If you have a baby, it won't arrive in that form. It is all happening within. Everything that you seek, no matter what it is happening and occurring within. And the way that you manifest and attract it like a magnet to you is from within. And so I want you to kind of explore that idea and begin to work with that. And realize that you are not unworthy because you may or may not feel unhappy, or you feel happiness in one moment and maybe not the other. That says nothing about you. Happiness is a fleeting emotion like no other, like sadness, like anger, like anything else. Happiness comes and goes. It's part of and can be part of any experience. It's a potentiality and an emotion that can arise within your thought stream, within your emotion stream. It can meet you within any experience, but you can transmute it to whatever. You can have your happiness, you can feel unhappy. It's really all dependent on your perspective, on your mindset, and what you believe about yourself. Now, highs and lows happen. That's just part of it. If you want happiness, you have to also accept the lows. If you don't accept the lows, then forget happiness. It just doesn't exist. Duality exists for us to experience the flavor of life, to experience the infinite flavor of life, all of the flavors of life, all of the differences, all of the varieties that are there. Now, if you're only wanting to experience the one variety of happiness, the one flavor of vanilla, then my friend, you're not going to be very happy in this experience. So that would be something you'd have to shift. You'd have to shift the idea that it has to be one way. So if I'm giving some advice to my younger self that was just searching on the internet how to be happy, I would let her know things are always changing. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. In each experience, it contains the potentiality for every emotion, from happiness to sadness to anger. And they're meant to be experienced here on this earth. That is the infinite nature of how things work. And in order to have our experience of being happy, and then our experiences of being scared, our experiences of being excited, we have to embrace and allow for the polarity, which is the opposite of whatever it is that we want to experience. And we have to realize that there's nothing to be fearful of here on this earth. Everything is perfect, controlled, safe, and happy as it is. And even greater than that, you're allowing this to happen. So if you don't like something in your experience, begin to shift your focus about it and transcend it through you. I love you all.